Hello everybody and welcome. Today is going to be a different kind of video. I don't have a studio vlog for you today. This past week was the last week of school before finals, and I also was sick for the first half of the week. So those two things combined, I decided to make the decision to not do a studio vlog this week just because I was stressed. I didn't want another thing on my plate when I really needed to just like lock in on assignments. So we're going to have a different kind of video, which I hope that you will enjoy. Today, I'm going to be showing you my bone collection. I do want to preface this video by saying that all of the bones that I'm about to show you are either wild foraged by myself. I found about 90% of these bones in the woods, hiking, fishing. The other 10% I got from a guy who ethically sources all of his bones. There are only 2 bones in my entire collection that I did not wild forage myself. I have a deep appreciation for bones. It's something that I've always been attracted to since I was a young child, and I think that they're very beautiful and I deeply appreciate them. So I'm going to be showing my bones animal by animal. So I'm going to start with my chicken bones. So these are all my chicken bones. It's basically all leg bones. These are from chickens that my family raised for eggs and also for meat. So all of these bones, these were from chickens that were then eaten. This is one of the few bones that I didn't wild source. So I have several of these long, skinny, they're all leg bones, basically drumsticks. Several of the long ones, and then I also have a pair of the short ones. Nothing super like special about these, but you know, I do have them, I do appreciate them, and I love them very much. And so this is all of the chicken bones I have are chicken leg bones from chickens that I raised and then ate. So moving on, this is a muskrat skull. It is one of 2 skulls that I have, and it's also got the little teethies. Got the little teeth right here. It doesn't have the front teeth, but it has all of the little back teeth, and I think it's so cute, and I love how big the eye holes are. I think it's just like adorable. This my boyfriend gave to me. He's had it since he was a kid. He was doing some sort of like nature survival skills type situation up in like New England, and they trapped it and then they skinned it and then they ate it. One of my favorites. One of the most recent additions to the collection. I love it. It's just so cute. I love it so much. I'm probably gonna say that about all of them, but little muskrat skull. Also, I apologize for the lighting not being that great. It's like 9 o'clock at night, and I'm also in a room with no overhead lighting of any sort. So lamps are all I have. That is all for muskrat. Moving on, I have a turtle shell. I found this turtle shell in the mountains, and it does have the spine of the turtle. If you didn't know, turtles cannot leave their shells because their spine is part of their shell. It is a part of them, and if you try to take a turtle out of its shell, it will die. So I know like occasionally you'll see like a cartoon of like, you know, a turtle getting knocked out of its shell and having to like run back in. That can't happen in real life. Like the shell is attached to them and they cannot be detached without death. So when I originally found this, it did have the like colorful like scales is what I'm gonna call it, still attached. Over time they fell off. I'm not really sure where they went, if I'm being honest. I've had this since I was probably in late elementary school, early middle school, so it's been a long time. For forever, this sat like a little bowl on my like dresser, and I would use it to hold things. But now I actually am so lucky because I have a whole like section of shelves where I can probably display all my bones, and well, I'm working on it. It's like shelves, but I want to do more to it. But this is one of my favorites. It's one of the oldest members of my collection, and it is also the only turtle bone I have. I know this isn't technically a bone. This is a fossil of I'm gonna insert it right here because I can't pronounce it. Trilophyte? Trepophyte? Tripolite? Trilophyte? I also don't really remember what it's called, but this is a fossil of a prehistoric creature similar to a horseshoe crab, which I think is one of the more common fossils that you can find, and I got this from a guy who was selling fossils. But anyways, cute fossil, so cute. This is from, it just says Navajo on the back. Beautiful, beautiful. I wish there was better lighting, god damn it. But absolutely beautiful little fossil. So my next category is cow, which these are some of my favorite, not absolutely my favorite, but they are definitely some of my favorite just because they are huge. So I'm gonna start off with teeth. So I have 2 cow teeth. They also have the roots attached. They fell out of a cow skull. So this one is, you know, skinnier. I think this is a more like frontal tooth, and then I believe this one is a farther back molar because it is fatter and shorter, whereas this one is narrower and longer. And you can also see that with this one, I think the grooves are not worn down as much as the other one. But these are my 2 cow teeth. So cute. Next, I have 2 different cow vertebrae. So this is the first cow vertebrae. It does have, you know, some pieces of this one are broken off. It's not in the best of condition, but it is definitely a beautiful bone, beautiful specimen, and I really fuck with it. It's really cute. So see, that's where the spinal cord goes, and this is actually like the top skinny part is actually like where the back is. So the skinny part is going to be the part that the outermost part of your spine of the back is where this ridge goes. This one, much bigger. And I think a big part of it is just that this one is a lot more worn down and this one is in significantly better condition. They're also from different parts of the spine. I think that might have something to do with it. Different sections of the spine will have differently shaped vertebrae. There will be variation in the shape. So this is my absolute favorite vertebrae I have. It is huge. Look at this, like compared to my face. And this is just like one piece of a cow's spine. It is enormous. And so this is one of my favorite bones. I really want to make it into a candle holder, but I feel like the best way for it to be a candle holder was to put a candle in the indent, but the problem is that it doesn't balance like that. But it does balance incredibly like this. So I'm okay with honestly just having it on display because it is truly one of my favorite pieces. The last cow bone is the biggest, and it is by far the biggest bone I have in my collection, and that is a cow femur. All of the cow bones I have came from the mountains. I found my cow bones in an area that had previously been used for grazing. So my thought as to how the bones came to be there is that a cow was killed by coyotes and then just left there to decompose. Beautiful cow bone. Here, of course, is the ball socket where it attached to the pelvis. The only real part of this bone that is a little bit degraded is this part here. There's a bit of a crevice. In that same part, there's kind of like some, looks like, you know, some like tooth marks perhaps. So maybe a coyote or some other animal got to that. But you have the ball, which was where the ball socket joint was for the pelvis. And then this is the knee joint for the femur. This is one of my favorite pieces. It is so big, like, this isn't right next to my head. It's huge. This is one of my favorite pieces. She sits at a very prominent place in my shelf, and I am so incredibly grateful to have found her. The very last category is also by far the largest category, and that is deer bone. I found most of my deer bones in the very close to where I found my cow bone. The deer, I actually know for a fact, was killed by a coyote because I actually saw the deer maybe a couple days to a couple weeks after it had been killed by a coyote, and it was all eaten, but you know, there was still, you know, fur and some, you know, rotting flesh. And then I came back, I think like 6 months, maybe a year later, and that was when it had basically all of the body had decomposed, leaving the bones. I'm gonna start with ribs. All of the ribs I have are partial ribs. None of them are really like full ribs. A lot of them are broken, probably because it was eaten by an animal, and a coyote is not, you know, going in there with like a surgeon's knife, you know, extracting the bones. This is one of the longest ones. So this part with the little knobs and ridges is where it would have connected to the spine. I am not an anatomy expert. Don't come for me if I'm completely wrong about all of this. And then this part would have eventually tapered down to end. But it's broken, and that's okay. So that's one of the longest ones I have. This is a wider one. You can see the knobs at the end where it connected to the rest of the skeleton more clearly, and it also fans out wider. Here's another one. This one also has similar, not super prominent little knobs. Another one, this one also has very prominent little knobs, but it doesn't widen quite to the degree that the other rib widens. And then both of these have super distinct knobs, and both of them are broken about 3-4 inches down. So that is all of the deer ribs I have. Next, we're gonna move on to foot ankle type bones. We're gonna start with this one. I have another one of this exact bone somewhere, but I have no clue where it went, but I know I have 2 of this exact bone. And I think they're both from like the leg areas, but not exactly sure. I think this is part of the foot. The next thing I have is a bunch of small bones. This one is really strange. I have no clue where this bone's from. I'm thinking foot, but also maybe like knee or something. So it has like some very interesting ridges on the top, the bottom, and then the rest of them are similarly shaped. And they look like this. They have, again, two joints. 3 of them are the exact same size. Part of what leads me to believe that they are, you know, 3 different feet. And then I also have this little one, which is a lot shorter than the others. And so, I don't know, perhaps it was like this type of situation. Oh, that fits really well. So these 2 bones fit together really well, I believe, for the foot. That's the best I can think of. I think that that is like the smallest joints that would be in a deer's body, and that I can really think of. Next, I have leg bones. I have 3 different leg bones of various lengths. So they're not all the same. This one has a really interesting kind of double ridge on this joint, and it's also got a slit down. And these bones are also, the leg bones are in great condition. You know, the rib cage, not so much because, you know, coyotes gotta eat. I'm trying to fit these together too, because honestly, those other joints, I had never fit together before. So I wasn't sure, so maybe something like this, perhaps? Not exactly sure. I also have no clue if deer have the tibia and fibula the same way that humans do. Now I'm going to show you the rest of the bones I have from that same deer, and then I'll move into deer bones from different deer. So the last thing I have is a wide selection of deer vertebrae. This is when you really get into some interesting variations. If you look at this vertebrae is extremely similar to this cow vertebrae. These vertebrae, very similar. You can see how mammals have similar bone structures across species. So I think like an interesting fact too is also, like, remember humans have 7 vertebrae in their neck, so do giraffes. Think about that. Like, my neck is maybe like 4 inches long. A giraffe's neck is like 5 feet. I want to see a giraffe vertebrae. I think it'd be so fascinating. So next, this one is similar structures. It's got the 3 holes. It's got the similar amount of branches, but it doesn't have the same height, and it is also longer. So cute. Love it so much. But yeah, so bones like this would fit together like this. Obviously, not these 2 bones together probably, but they would fit like this, and then they would be able to flex and move. But these 2 bones, pretty sure, don't go together in any way. Some more little vertebrae. This one's cute. It only has 1 hole going through it. Then this is a very interesting vertebrae. It's very small. It's extremely small with this part, and then it has an incredibly long piece like this. That is an insane size difference. Even within one animal, you can have vastly different size vertebrae. And it's so fascinating to me. Got more short skinny. Got another short skinny. And then we've got this one. Very nice shape. This is also a vertebrae, but I believe that this is more getting very close to, if not actually part of, the sacrum. So this concludes all of the deer bones that I gathered from this specific deer carcass. So we're gonna move on to the other 2 deer bones I have. This is a half of a deer pelvis. It is in rough shape. It's got broken off here and also some, you know, roughness here in this area. And it also has the ball socket joint, the socket part of the ball socket joint. I'm not exactly sure which way it would be oriented, if it would be oriented like this or like this. I found this one. I was fishing with my dad, and the spot that we were fishing at had recently had a bunch of bushes and small trees near the bank cleared, and I was just, you know, walking around casting out my rod, and I saw it and I was like, oh, gorgeous. That is a deer hip bone if I ever saw one. So obviously had to take this little treasure home with me. Now we have the very last bone, which is also one of my absolute favorites. It is a deer skull. So this skull is not a full-grown deer. This is from what is called a spike, which is, it has the horns, so you can tell it's a male, but the horns are also very small. This deer would probably be about a year old. The front part, the nose does have some missing, where like the nasal cavity, this half of the nasal cavity, and also the front of the nose and the front teeth are not here. And we are missing a few teeth in this region, but besides that, there are a bunch of teeth still. This bone I got from a wonderful human who has an incredible bone collection, and he was selling off part of it, and so I purchased this skull from him. This is one of my favorites. I love him so much. Oh, he has a name. I can't remember his name. I think his name is Herman. I can't remember, but he came with a name and I totally forgot, but I think it's Herman. Anyways, this is the end. I hope you enjoyed the tour of my bone collection, and I hope I didn't scare you off being incredibly weird. But you know, if you know me, you know that I'm a weird girl and I love bones and I think it's beautiful things. So I hope you had a wonderful time, and I hope you're having a wonderful day, and I will see you again.